We are going to replace the material on a R50 Pathfinder driver's seat. We are going to be using the material from an R50 passenger seat to make this repair. I'll explain my madness here in a minute, but what we're going to go over is a quick overview of how to remove one of these seats from the vehicle. We will learn how to remove the seat cushion from the seat frame. We will learn how to take the material off the cushion, as well as swapping the material over from the donor seat and the reinstallation of this project. To do everything I mentioned, there's very little tools involved. Out in the salvage yard or wherever you're pulling the donor seat from, you're going to need a 14mm wrench. To remove one of these seats from the vehicle, you simply remove 4 14mm bolts. They will be behind some plastic covers, most likely, if they're still intact with the vehicle. Those plastic covers you generally pry forward or away from the seat on the front feet, and on the back feet you pry them backward or away from the seat as well. You may have to wiggle them or pry upward. Some come off with relative ease, some you have to fight with for a couple minutes to do that. The back feet are a little trickier due to kind of the cup design of the foot back there. It's kind of a tight squeeze, especially if the seat has been pushed back on the motor track or the seat track. Even with a motorized seat pushed all the way back, it is still possible to remove it. It just takes a little extra time to get the 14mm bolt out of the back. Tools needed for everything else after that is right here. You need a 12mm socket, the ratchet extension. You'll need some wire cutters to cut some zip ties. You're going to need hog ring pliers to install new hog rings. You'll need a flat blade screwdriver to pry with. You're going to want some needle nose pliers that you can force open to spread open the hog rings, or if you got some long nose snap ring pliers, those work even better. To swap over the material cushion, you're going to need new hog rings. You can find these at the hardware store. My local store had them in the fencing section. And a box cutter. If you're going to go the route I'm doing, you're going to need to have a cutout made on the material of the donor seat if it's a passenger seat for these seat controls. If you're swapping a driver's seat material to another driver's seat, you don't have to worry about making any incisions. It's only if you're going from passenger to driver or vice versa. So let's get started. First things first, we're going to pry off the seat controls. Just stick a flat blade screwdriver back in there, gently twist. So put that in a safe place. Here's the other one. As we go forward, we will most likely encounter some sort of wires that will be attached to pieces that we're removing. When we come across those, we'll just need to remove the little zip ties, such as right here, with some wire cutters. You may also need to disconnect some harnesses to get things out of the way as well. We're going to be removing this pan from the frame. To do so, we're going to need to remove these 12mm bolts. So 4 locations, equally spaced out from each other, and last one is down in there. So we'll go ahead and remove this material. And I'm also going to disconnect these wire harnesses as well. You might ask, how did a project like this even start? So when I bought this vehicle almost 2 years ago, it had a slight tear in the leather seat, and it really annoyed me. There was a bunch of issues with the vehicle, a lot of mechanical, a lot of cosmetics, and I pretty much hammered out all the mechanical issues. We're just left with mostly cosmetic issues such as paint, rust, dents, etc. But for whatever reason, time has told the truth. The seat has been one of my biggest annoyances on here. It's always been my top 5 the biggest complaints about it. I kind of looked through my options, see what there is to fix this. You know, I could take it to an upholstery shop, pay $200 something, $300 to have it fixed. That would be fantastic. However, I just cannot justify spending that money on something this old with a bunch of other cosmetic issues. The other options I have would be to do cheap fixes such as like a patch. You can patch it, throw a piece of black tape over it, go get a repair patch. Costs next to nothing, but it would drive me absolutely nuts just seeing that every day. I could also throw a seat cover on it. There's cheap seat covers, you know, starting at $10. There's expensive seat covers pushing $100. Problem with seat covers for me is they drive me nuts. I've sat on other people's seat covers. I hate them. I hate the way they bunch up, the way they slide around. Even the expensive ones, they kind of look like a puffy winter coat over a seat. So I'd rather just sit on a tore up seat, or I'd rather just sit on the bare foam than deal with that. I don't know. I'm just weird like that. So it kind of left me there with 2 more options. Ignore it, keep using it, which I've been doing, or I can find a salvage yard seat. I figured the salvage yard would be the best option for me. I go to the salvage yard quite regularly. I've been going for about 1.5 years now. I'm always checking new arrivals. I'm checking Facebook Marketplace for part outs, trying to find something with a good leather seat that's black. Anytime I come across this material and color combination, they are always destroyed. And a couple times I've come across in the salvage yard and it's almost perfect. There's maybe a slight tear, but it's still better than what I have. So I'll go inquire the price in my local salvage yards, and it's expensive. They won't sell me just the cushion for, you know, 10, 20 bucks. They want to sell me the whole entire seat for over 70. All right, so we're gonna want to remove this plastic, I guess it's a little clip. Behind it there's a little sheet metal tab, or 3 sheet metal tabs that are inside this groove here. So what we're going to do is bend this back and then work this plastic thing off the tabs. This is where your flathead screwdriver comes in handy. Just bend it back. Okay, so we're looking pretty good there. Should be able to get this to slide off a little easier now. There we go. Got 1 of those removed right there. Got 2 more. So, yeah, looking for these in the salvage yard, I just couldn't dress myself to buy one that had even a small rip on it. For $75, I expect perfection on this. So I just kept waiting, kept looking. Nothing ever popped up. And it was kind of frustrating. So you go out there, and about every other one that has this material seat has a perfectly good passenger seat. I can't help but think that's a good waste of a seat. It's just going to go to the crusher. Nobody out here looks for passenger seats. Then I kind of thought, you know, I wonder, what if I could find a way to somehow swap the cushion part over? You know, it looks pretty symmetrical as far as the leather section goes. What if I could pull that off and swap it over? So well, that's kind of a big gamble. Pay $75 for something that might work. If it doesn't, the best you can get back is some store credit at the junkyard. A few months ago, I picked up another R50 Pathfinder project, and it had a torn leather seat, ripped up pretty bad. It was down to the foam. It is the beige tan color. A lot more common. Still pretty much, they're usually trashed when you find them, such as the one I bought. But I got lucky with that one. Right as I bought it, I found a unicorn seat in the junkyard for that, and it wasn't ripped up. So I bought the whole driver's seat, swapped it over, and I had this tore up one. Just taking up space in my garage, and I was like, yeah, I need to throw that out. But before I do, let's take it apart and let's figure out what the underside of this material looks like. Is it symmetrical? Would it fit on a driver's seat? So, popped it off, took it apart, looked how it connects with all the log rings, and sure enough, it is symmetrical. Okay. So, I figured, I'm pretty confident I can make it work. Swap it over. I'd spend $75 on a driver's seat right now here today if they had one to get this to work. So I was like, well, same price for a passenger seat, so I might as well do it. So, picked up a passenger seat that didn't have any rips on it. Brought it home, set in my garage a few months. Alright, so we got this back one disconnected. See about maybe lifting this cushion up a little bit. So this will give you access to a screw right here. I almost forgot next to that we do need a Phillips screwdriver. So got a screw there. Got a screw here. This panel just pops right off. Looking pretty disgusting in there if I say so myself. Same screw right here. Panel pops off. At this point, we'll find out the wires are holding this pan down, or the wire ties are. So we got one right here, one right here, there's one right there. Looks like this section we'll have to unhook. It's a whole bunch of them, so we'll get started on those. If you wanted to be an overachiever, you could see about trying to find the proper way of removing these connectors, but I'm not going to do that. So we've got some little clips in here. You should be able to pry these out with a screwdriver. Okay. And the wiring of these seats can vary from year to year, from trim level to trim level, and of course, whether it's passenger or driver. So, I'm not putting a big focus on the wiring specifics of this seat. Okay, so it looks like the remaining wire is for the seat control module on the side. There's a white plug down in there. We'll have to disconnect that. Kind of a bit of a screech to get, but we'll get it. There we go. Okay, we are free. So there's your seat. Underneath we got 2 wires, seat control, heated seats. So, like earlier, we have these little clips. We have more on this. We have some right here, here, and here. So let's get started on that. So anyway, yeah, I just had these seats sit in the garage for a while, or the donor seats sit in the garage for a while. I kind of destroyed my transmission a little bit, off-roading with it, breaking a trans cooler line, so I'm in the middle of a transmission swap. Had a few days down, away from the project, where I'm waiting on just stupid, but yet essential parts associated with the trans swap to come in. So while I wait, I do other less important projects, and today is the day we do the seats. We're just pulling this off. Power seat box. Just gonna make sure you clear that. And just start peeling everything back. Oh, my mistake. More clips right here. That one. Just something didn't feel right. Okay, should be free now. There's your pan. There's our foam seat. Running through the foam seat, we should have wires running through the foam, like thick coat hanger wires that are embedded in the foam that make an H pattern. This material has the same wires that run parallel to those, and then those 2 sets of wires that are hog ringed together. If we look right here, this is a wire and it's a fabric sleeve. My fingernail is following that wire. Now inside the foam here, it's only visible in certain sections, but there's another wire that permanently stays in the foam. Right here we have a hog ring. Right here we have a hog ring, and right here. So this is where we get our snap ring pliers. Stick them in there. Apply forward pressure while you're squeezing. And expand it most of the way open. There it is right there. It has released from this wire. We're going to repeat this for the next one. Okay, it's released. And the last one. On this side. Okay. So now we have part of this. And one thing to note, if you're doing this, you got the heated seat pad. Factory service manual says use a lot of care around these wires. Don't nick them or sever them. I guess they're really fragile. And then this material is really delicate soft felt. It's almost like toilet paper. So just be really careful with that. Let's flip it over. We're going to repeat this again. Same setup, 3 hog rings. So we have this side done. And there's one more goes right along in here. You're not able to flop this pad back. There's these, it's attached there. You'll have to go this way. And again, don't push this out because you'll rip where it's attached. This is actually hog ringed in there as well. As you can see down in there. And if your pliers slip, it very well could rip the felt. My recommendation is even if you just get the hog ring open partially, go ahead and pull your little loop of felt out of there. And then go back and finish up the hog ring. There we go. Got that out. That's it. I think it looks pretty symmetrical under here. On this pad, the writing faces away from the leather. It faces into the foam. So we'll need to remember that. There's the nasty seat. So I'm repeating the removal steps on the donor seat, which is a passenger seat. It's a 2001. I don't know if that makes a difference or not, but you gotta pull back this like cardboard or plastic piece and then unhook this material from one of those slots. It's kind of one of these things again. This was not present on the driver's seat that we looked at earlier.